Are you asking for a sign or ignoring the one you already got? Welcome back to Beyond the Surface. I'm Sarah White, and today we're going somewhere a little more spiritual. I want to talk about signs, the ones we ask for, the ones that seem to find us, and the ones that show up over and over again until eventually we can't help but pay attention. And maybe even the ones we keep asking for because somewhere inside of us we already know the answer, but we're not quite ready to trust it. I've always believed there is more happening around us than what we can see on the surface. I believe in intuition. I believe in synchronicities. I believe there are moments when something appears at exactly the right time and touches something inside of you in a way that's difficult to explain logically. I don't need everyone else to believe in those things for them to mean something to me. I hold them very deeply in my heart. And this year especially, I've been paying attention. I've been seeing repeating numbers constantly. For me, 444, 888, and 999 have continued showing up throughout this year. I'll look at the clock. I'll see a number somewhere unexpected. I'll be thinking about something, and suddenly, there it is. Now, you can absolutely look at repeating numbers and say it's a coincidence. You can say that once our brains begin noticing a pattern, we're more likely to see that pattern again. And maybe sometimes that's true. But I also believe we get to decide what meaning we give to the things that find us. For me, these numbers have arrived during a period of my life when I've needed them. And that's what makes them meaningful. When the sign matches the season, at the beginning of 2026, I chose a word for my year through my meditation practice. The word that came to me was abundance. And I didn't choose abundance simply because I wanted more money or more things. For me, abundance represents something much bigger. It's an openness to receive. It's trusting that there is more available to us than what we can currently see. It's allowing ourselves to believe that life can expand in ways we haven't planned yet. And then 888 started appearing again and again. If you're familiar with angel numbers, 888 is associated with abundance and prosperity. Every time I see it, something in me pays attention. I don't interpret it as a guarantee that something specific is about to happen. I don't see 888 and think a check is magically going to appear tomorrow. It's more personal than that. It reminds me of what I choose, abundance. It brings me back to what I'm opening myself toward this year. And then there's 999. That one has probably felt even more significant because of where I've been personally. 999 is often associated with completion, the ending of a cycle, and making space for a new beginning. And that has felt incredibly aligned with my life. I've been moving through transitions. I've been looking at parts of my life that have existed for a very long time and realizing that some chapters are ending. There are things I'm ready to leave behind. There are things I'm still figuring out how to leave behind. And there are new things beginning that I can't completely see yet. If you've ever been in that place, you probably know how strange it can feel. Part of you knows you're ready, and another part of you is scared. Because an ending may create an opening, but an opening doesn't always come with instructions. You don't necessarily know what's going to fill it. You don't know exactly where you're going. You simply know that you can't keep living exactly where you've been. And in those moments, seeing 999 has become something I hold on to. Not because I believe a number is making my decisions for me, but because it reminds me of what I already know. A chapter can end without my entire story ending with it. There can be something after this, and there can be something I can't see yet. And then there's 444. 444 has been another number that continues to appear for me. It's commonly associated with support, protection, and the feeling that you're not walking through something alone. And there have absolutely been moments this year when I've needed that reminder because transition can feel lonely. Even when you're surrounded by people who love you, there are decisions and experiences that ultimately belong to you. Other people can support you, they can listen, and they can give you advice, but they can't live the transition for you. And when I'm in one of those moments and I see 444, I allow it to mean something to me. I let it remind me you're supported and to keep going. Maybe someone else would see 3 4s and think absolutely nothing of it, and that's okay. The point isn't convincing anyone else. The point is what happens inside of me when I see them. And I think that's where signs become really interesting. So, what if signs aren't always giving us the answer? I think sometimes we approach signs as though we're waiting for the universe to make a decision for us. If I see this, I'll do it. If this happens, I'll know. Give me one more sign. I've done versions of that too. But the deeper I've gone into my own practices, the more I've started thinking that maybe signs aren't always here to give us an answer. Sometimes they remind us to pay attention to the answer that's already forming inside of us. There's a difference. Because if we're not careful, asking for signs can become another way of looking outside ourselves for certainty. We can keep asking and asking because acting on what we already know feels scary. We want one more confirmation, one more coincidence, one more person to tell us, and one more moment where everything lines up so perfectly that there's absolutely no possibility of making the wrong decision. But that's rarely how life works. Eventually, we have to participate. The sign can make you stop, and it can make you pay attention. It can bring you back to something you were thinking about, but you still have to listen. How do you know what's intuition and what's fear? This is probably one of the most difficult parts of trusting yourself because fear can be very convincing, and intuition doesn't always arrive with some dramatic spiritual experience. For me, intuition can feel much simpler. It's something I keep knowing even after the emotional intensity has changed. Fear tends to want my attention immediately. It wants me to solve something right now. It starts creating scenarios and trying to predict every possible outcome. My deeper knowing feels different. It can remain there underneath everything else. And this is one of the reasons my daily practice has become so important to me. I need somewhere to meet myself before I meet the rest of the world. So, the practice that brings me back. Inside the inner return, I created something called the daily dashboard, and I use it myself. That's important to me because I didn't want to create something for other individuals that I wasn't actually living. There are days when I come into that dashboard feeling clear and connected, and there are other days when I come in with my thoughts everywhere. The practice begins with checking in with where I am that day. There's movement, meditation, a daily insight, and breath work. And what I love most about it is that I don't have to decide what I need before I arrive. I return to the practice and trust that whatever I need that day will meet me there. Sometimes a meditation lands differently because of something I'm experiencing. Sometimes the daily insight feels almost strangely specific to something I've been thinking about. And sometimes it's the movement my body needed more than anything else. And there have been moments when I've sat there afterward and thought, that was exactly what I needed today. That's part of my spiritual practice. It's not about having every answer. It's creating space where I can actually hear what's happening inside of me. And I think that's also why I'm able to recognize signs when they appear, because I'm paying attention. We can miss so much when we're constantly looking for more. There's an interesting paradox here. We can become so focused on asking for another sign that we miss the one already in front of us. And sometimes the sign isn't 444 or 888 or even 999. Sometimes the sign is that every time you imagine making a particular decision, something inside of you knows. Sometimes it's the same thought returning for months, or it's realizing that you're exhausted from trying to make something fit. And sometimes it's feeling drawn towards something you can't logically explain yet. Yes, it's looking at the clock at exactly the right moment and seeing a number that has come to mean something deeply personal to you. I think the practice is learning how to notice without giving our power away. I don't want a number making my decisions. I want it reminding me to listen. But I believe about signs. I don't believe signs are guarantees. I don't believe seeing 888 means nothing difficult can happen because abundance is on its way. And I don't believe seeing 999 means I have to immediately end something because the universe told me to. For me, it's much more intimate than that. They're reminders, they're moments of connection, they're little interpretations in my day that bring me back to something deeper than whatever is occupying my mind at the moment. So when I see 888, I remember abundance. When I see 999, I remember that endings can create openings. And when I see 444, I remember that I am supported. And then I keep living my life. I make the decisions, I take the steps, I do the work. But I carry those reminders with me. And yes, I hold them close to my heart. So before you go, if you've been asking for a sign about something in your own life, maybe there's one question worth sitting with. If I stopped asking for another sign, what do I already know? You don't have to force any answer. Give yourself enough space to notice what comes up. And if you're craving a daily practice that gives you somewhere to create that space, I've linked the inner return in the show notes. The daily dashboard I talked about today is inside, and it's the same practice I return to in my own life. I never know exactly what I'm going to need when I arrive there, and that's part of what I love about it. I show up, check in, and trust that whatever is there for me that day is exactly where I need to begin. You can find the link in the show notes if you want to experience it for yourself. And the next time something keeps appearing in your life, whether it's a number, a feeling, a thought, or one of those moments that seems almost too perfectly timed to ignore, maybe don't immediately ask what it means. Just notice and pay attention to what was happening inside of you when it appeared. Because maybe the sign isn't there to tell you what to do. Maybe it's there to remind you to listen. Thank you for spending this time with me on Beyond the Surface. I'll see you in the next episode.